Some people, I tell you. Holy cow. And back to Jesus, who in Luke chapter 18 said, he also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous, and regarded others with contempt. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, was praying thus, God, I thank you, but I'm not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give a tenth of all my income. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even look up to heaven, but was beating his breast and saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his home justified rather than the other. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, but all who humble themselves will be exalted. About 1999, I came back from Japan the first time, got married, decided I needed to pick a baseball team, and all my friends were Cubs fans, so I said, I'm going to be a Southsider. So I went to the Sox. And it paid off. It paid off. But don't get me wrong, I'm not a hater. I mean, it's exciting. Your hubby made a good comment on the way in. He said, isn't it funny how sports are a metaphor or an allegory for life? Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it was exciting, right? The first time in 71 years going to the World Series. Hopefully. No, it's going to happen. The first time in 108 years winning the World Series. I mean, come on, this is big stuff. But I think of all the people, all the folks who have passed on, the folks who are even still with us, or even in their hundreds, who've been praying and praying and praying that the Cubs would win the World Series, or at least go to it. But it didn't happen. All that time, 71 years, apparently God didn't feel good in finding favor in these poor folks who are praying so fervently. Sorry, Daryl, your prayers are just not heard by God. But I want to say to all the Cubs fans here today, you will. See, I don't pray for sports. Even Weston's football games, I don't pray for victory. I pray that every kid, including the other kids on the other team, will be safe, and nobody gets hurt. That's the only thing I pray for before games. I think it's pointless to pray for a victory. Okay? But this gal across the street who frequents the bar with a black sheep, Chris, she's lunch lady for a long time over at St. Hilary's, and she says, Padre, you need to call in a favor. Pray for the Cubbies tonight. I'm like, Chris, I don't... Pray for the Cubbies tonight. You've got connections. You're in with the big guy upstairs. I'm like, all right, Chris, but don't blame me, my Cobb. Let the Cubs win tonight. So again, you won't. So I'm going to start praying for the Bears next year. I'm not going to waste any prayers this year. We'll see how that works out. But it makes me wonder about prayer, especially in light of these passages that we just read. Last week we talked about what's the point of praying. Sometimes God doesn't seem to be listening or seems to be doing something that we just can't quite grasp or understand. But here we are in this prayer where you've got a man who is standing there thanking God that he's not like this other church, this tax collector. Right? He's like, I fast twice a day. So do I, between breakfast and lunch and lunch and dinner. I don't know what the guy means by fasting twice a day, to tell you the truth. He gives it 10% of his income, and yada, yada, yada. Oh, what a good boy he is. But then you got this tax collector. Now we think, okay, tax collector, even in our day, the word tax collector just makes us cringe. All right? But for them, the tax collector was somebody who was most likely a Jew, but who was a sellout. Right? This was somebody who worked for the Roman oppressor, going around to his own brothers and sisters, collecting money on Caesar's behalf. You couldn't get any lower than that. And that's how they viewed people like this. And so this Pharisee, feeling that he's so righteous and so good, and that it's his prayers that are surely heard by God, is saying, thank you, God, that I'm not like this sellout son of a gun over here. I do what I'm supposed to, but he's no good. But Jesus, in his typical fashion, turns it around and says, which one went home justified? Not the Pharisee. Because he doesn't even see his own sin. He sees only his own pride and his own righteousness, and he doesn't get that he's not as perfect as he thinks he is. But at least the tax collector knows he's a sellout. God, forgive me. I have to make a living for my family. I'm doing this thing that makes everybody hate me. I'm a sinner. And he beats his chest and says, forgive me. Forgive me, a sinner. How many of us can go before God and say, thank you for making me so perfect. Thank you for answering all of my prayers because I deserve that. Now, most of us, or more like the tax collector, if we're honest, would be going before God and saying, I'm a sinner. Now, I don't believe in beating ourselves up. I don't believe in that kind of theology that says, oh, God, I'm a terrible, worthless, no good human being. Have pity on me. Have mercy on me because I'm just no good. I don't think that's healthy. I think God did make us good. I think God did give us great qualities, and great gifts, and great skills and talents. We don't have to beat ourselves up. But we also can't be too haughty. We can't think we're all that in a bag of chips. We have to be able to self-reflect. That's the biggest thing. To be able to reflect on who we are and know that the things we've done that have hurt others, or the things that we do that hurt ourselves, or the things that we think are so wonderful but really aren't serving us very well at all. That's awareness. That's self-reflection. To really know who we are in the eyes of God. To be able to see ourselves, let alone one another, through those eyes, to say, this is how I really am, and this is where I need to improve, and this is where I need to change. But if we go along with this theme of sports being an allegory for life, I look at all these sports players, and I see Tim Tebow doing the prayer in the end zone. Right? I see so many sports, pointing to hit a home run. That's because of you, thank you. It has nothing to do with that I've been training since I was this big. Where's talent come in? Where's skill come in? Good managing, good coaching. Where do these things come in? Don't they count for something? I think so. I think they're just as much to account for the victory as God's favor, or God's blessings. But yet again, if we go too far in one direction and say it's all training and all just skill, then there is something that we're kind of leaving out too, right? I mean, there is room for thanking God in these situations, and we wonder, how does the spectrum look? Where's that sweet spot where we're working hard enough to make things happen of our own accord, because we should be, being responsible. But where are we in saying that this portion, this part of it, is because God helped to make it happen? Now, does God make it happen? Does God make that quarterback's pass go just right in that sweet spot between those two DBs and get right in the hands of the receiver, and he just happens to tiptoe the sideline and make it into the touchdown for the win? Weston's game last week there, this is what crazy about Chicago public schools. In the rest of the state, you can win 6 games and go to the playoffs. In Chicago, it's the top 2 teams. So Taft had already locked at 7-1. Okay, that beat Mather, us, and beat Lincoln Park. So we come in 7-1, Mather 7-1, Lincoln Park playing. 49 seconds left in the game. Lincoln Park scores a touchdown. It's game over. I guess I should have prayed. No, they were a good team. So were we. I was surprised. I didn't think Mather was going to do anything this year. But it just, who trained harder? Who was the better team at the time? They were. I mean, were there some things that were coincidence or flukes, or just so happened that the clock went the right way or certain calls didn't get called? And yeah, there's some of that too, right? It's not chicanery, it just is what it is. So how much is the hand of God really in control of what happens in sports or in life? And we could think, okay, maybe God doesn't have great control, but then when we look at this passage in Joel, it says, I'm finally going to send relief from these armies that I have sent against you. The locusts, the grasshoppers, whatnot. It's like, oh, come on, man. Really? So God is causing all the pain in life? God is causing all the bad stuff intentionally? That's troubling. That's disturbing. So here, this passage is saying, I have to pray to you, oh God, who caused this junk in the first place, and ask you to ask for mercy, to back off a little bit, to take some relief Have pity on me. That's troubling. That's what the passage says. So that's how we have to take it, right? Take it at face value. God causes the bad stuff, but sometimes when God feels like it, lets up and lets good things happen. Amen. Gee, that's pretty. But that's obviously not the end of the story. Because we have to remember who's writing this, right? This is nation of Israel. This is Jewish people seeing everything in their history as a historiography. Right? Everything that they see happening, they see it as if God is making it happen, because that's who they are. They're the people of God, the chosen ones. Right? This was the promise in Deuteronomy, where God said, if you obey my commandments, if you follow this covenant as I have laid it out for you, you will be blessed. But if you mess up, I'm going to send you into exile. And that's exactly what happened. So then they read it backwards to this lens. See, told you, it's right here. You messed up and you went to exile. God wasn't kidding. Shouldn't have messed around. Okay? So when we read these passages, we don't want to get too caught up in thinking that God is causing all the garbage, but we also don't want to get so caught up in thinking that every touchdown or home run or goal is because God is sitting up in heaven bored with a drink of choice. Bam! Watch this. This will get him. Ah! See that coming. That would be funny if you noticed. That would be really funny. I'd love to see that. But it's just not happening. Our thing, our goal, is to find the sweet spot. To find that place where we work hard enough in life to make things happen. Whether it's feeding the hungry, or providing housing for the homeless, or even making ourselves the best versions of ourselves that we possibly can be. We need to work hard. We can't just rely on external forces to do things for us. We need to show up every day, train if that's the case, work hard, become better for ourselves, for our children, for our friends, for those who are watching us. But in the end, whether things go well or don't, whether we understand why things ended up the way they did or don't, in the end, we still have to be humble enough to stop and say, thank God.